If you walk into most enterprises today and ask who owns security architecture, you will often get multiple answers. One team will say the enterprise architect owns it. Another will say the solution architect defines it. Security operations may assume they are responsible. And leadership may believe architecture simply means choosing tools. This confusion creates misalignment, duplicated controls, inconsistent standards, and fragmented risk management. If you want to operate effectively as a leader or architect, you must clearly understand the difference between enterprise security architecture and solution security architecture. Because the difference is not cosmetic. It defines scope, accountability, influence, and long-term impact. And if you misunderstand this distinction, you will either under-design security or overstep your architectural boundary. When you think about enterprise security architecture, you must think horizontally across the organization. Enterprise security architecture defines the security vision, the capability model, the control domains, the long-term target state, the architectural principles, the governance framework. It answers questions such as what security capabilities must exist across the enterprise? What is the identity trust model? How will cloud environments be secured consistently? What logging standard applies across all business units? What maturity level are we targeting over the next 3 years? You are not designing a system. You are designing the security blueprint for the entire organization. It is strategic. It is long-term. It is cross-domain. It is business-aligned. Enterprise security architecture creates guardrails. It defines standards. It establishes patterns. It aligns risk appetite to control posture. It does not implement specific project solutions. It defines the ecosystem in which solutions must operate. Solution security architecture operates at a different level. When you design a new application, deploy a new SaaS platform, implement a new cloud workload, or modernize a system, you need a solution security architect. Solution security architecture focuses on securing a specific system or program, applying enterprise standards to a project, designing secure integration points, defining control implementation for that solution, ensuring compliance with enterprise security principles. It answers questions such as how should this application authenticate users? How should this workload be segmented? What encryption model should this system use? How does this system integrate with logging and monitoring? What risks are introduced by this specific solution? It is project-based. It is implementation-driven. It is narrower in scope. It is tactical compared to enterprise architecture. But it is still critical. Without solution-level design, enterprise strategy never becomes a reality. The most powerful way to understand the difference is to visualize scope. Enterprise security architecture thinks horizontally across all business units, all applications, all clouds, all identity systems, all environments, IT, OT, SaaS, hybrid. Solution security architecture thinks vertically within one system, one program, one initiative, one transformation effort. For example, if your organization is adopting zero trust, the enterprise architect defines identity-first strategy, conditional access principles, privileged access governance model, device trust posture standards, segmentation philosophy. The solution architect then ensures this specific application uses centralized identity. This API enforces token validation. This system logs according to enterprise standards. This workload integrates with enterprise monitoring. One defines direction. The other executes within that direction. If either layer is missing, security breaks. Understanding accountability is critical for leaders. Enterprise security architect is accountable for defining security capability roadmaps, aligning security with business strategy, standardizing control frameworks, reducing architectural duplication, ensuring long-term resilience, providing executive assurance. Solution security architect is accountable for securing individual solutions, conducting threat modeling for projects, ensuring compliance with enterprise standards, identifying project-specific risk, supporting engineering teams. If you blur accountability, problems arise. For example, if solution architects start redefining enterprise standards within projects, inconsistency emerges. If enterprise architects start designing every project detail, scalability collapses. As a leader, you must ensure clear role definition and architectural governance. This is where mindset becomes critical. Enterprise security architecture requires strategic thinking. You must think about 3 to 5 year roadmaps, technology lifecycle, regulatory changes, threat evolution, budget alignment, capability maturity. You are shaping the future state of the organization. Solution security architecture requires project-based thinking. You must think about delivery timelines, integration constraints, performance impact, system dependencies, specific risk mitigation. Both are valuable, but they operate at different time horizons. Strategic architecture asks, how should we design identity across the enterprise? Project-based architecture asks, how should this specific application integrate with identity? If you mix these, you create either analysis paralysis or uncontrolled variation. Many enterprises struggle because they do not formally separate these roles. Common mistakes include treating enterprise architects as technical reviewers only, allowing solution architects to create custom security patterns that bypass enterprise standards, overloading enterprise architects with project delivery responsibilities, ignoring enterprise level strategy and operating entirely in project mode. What happens then? Each project implements security differently. Logging becomes inconsistent. Identity models vary. Tool sprawl increases. Cost multiplies. Risk visibility reduces. You end up with what looks secure on paper but is structurally fragmented. And attackers exploit fragmentation. For example, one application might enforce strong MFA. Another might rely on legacy authentication. One cloud workload might log centrally. Another might log locally without SOC visibility. Without enterprise oversight, these inconsistencies accumulate. That is not architecture. That is entropy. For architecture to work, you must create governance bridges. Enterprise security architecture must define reference architectures, control standards, approved patterns, mandatory integration requirements, exception handling processes. Solution security architecture must follow these patterns, justify deviations, raise architectural risks, feed lessons back into enterprise design. This feedback loop is critical. Enterprise architecture evolves based on project realities. Solution architecture operates within enterprise guardrails. This dynamic relationship is where mature organizations differentiate themselves. If you clearly separate and align these two architectural layers, the benefits are significant. You achieve consistent identity enforcement, unified logging architecture, standardized encryption strategy, reduced audit complexity, lower operational cost, faster project approvals, predictable risk posture. Executives gain confidence because security becomes measurable. Risk is visible. Architectural decisions are structured. Investments are justified strategically. Without this clarity, leadership sees security as reactive and inconsistent. With clarity, security becomes structured and governable. This distinction also impacts your career. If you operate as a solution security architect, you develop strong technical depth, threat modeling expertise, integration knowledge, system level design skills. If you operate as an enterprise security architect, you develop strategic thinking, cross-domain knowledge, executive communication ability, governance and policy alignment, risk-based prioritization skills, Both paths are respected, but they require different competencies. If you aspire to executive leadership, CISO roles, or enterprise advisory positions, you must move beyond project thinking. You must learn to think across domains. You must learn to influence roadmaps. You must learn to translate business risk into architectural capability. That is the enterprise layer. But you cannot become an effective enterprise architect without understanding solution realities. The strongest enterprise architects have lived in both worlds. If you examine mature organizations, you will notice they have defined enterprise security capability maps, documented reference architectures, architecture review boards, formal solution security review processes, clear escalation paths for deviations. Immature organizations often operate entirely in reactive project mode, lack enterprise level documentation, have inconsistent control implementation, depend heavily on individual expertise rather than structured governance. If you are leading transformation, your goal should be to move from solution-driven chaos to enterprise-aligned cohesion. Enterprise security architecture defines the why and the what. Solution security architecture defines the how for specific initiatives. One is long-term and cross-functional. The other is targeted and execution-driven. You need both, but you must not confuse them. When they align, security becomes predictable. When they blur, security becomes fragmented. And in a world of advanced threat actors, fragmentation is the weakest point. Ask yourself honestly, are you solving project problems or are you shaping enterprise posture? Does your organization have clear security principles? Or does every project reinvent its own controls? Do solution architects understand enterprise standards or do they treat them as optional? Clarity at this boundary defines architectural maturity, and architectural maturity defines enterprise resilience. If this discussion helped you clarify the distinction between enterprise and solution security architecture, make sure you subscribe to this series. In the next lectures, you will go deeper into business alignment, zero trust strategy, and cloud security architecture, building on this foundation. Like this video if you found value in this explanation. Comment below and tell me, are you currently operating more at the solution layer or stepping into enterprise level thinking? Your evolution as a high impact security architect begins with understanding this difference.